Josie Bazette says this about dreams, and I love it. She says, dreams often come a size too big so that we can grow into them. That's reason number one. Reason number two, that I think it's important to notice that dreams are different, is so we can rest there. We'll say a lot more about that as we go throughout the series. When we begin to sense that the seeds of a dream are from God, we can both expect it to come to pass and expect it to transform along the way. God rarely gives his people a vision of the future in full 4K. He generally reveals just enough about the future to invite us to orient our hearts towards it and to trust him with the next right step in the right direction. Even if in the moment, the next right step doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's different, first. Second, harder. You see that in Joseph's original dream? He sees the bowing and the feasting. He doesn't see the cistern or the slavery or the rejection of his family or the false accusations or the years of being forgotten in prison. It's harder than he dreamed it in the beginning. Tons of examples of this. Marriage is an easy, low-hanging fruit example, isn't it? A bunch of us are married. A bunch of us, that's still in our dreams, right? Some of us, not married, not in our dreams for a whole lot of different reasons. But hopefully you can relate to this. When we dream of marriage, think, we dream of all of the mountaintops and none of the valleys. We acknowledge the valleys, but only because we know they're part of the mountaintops. They exist philosophically, theoretically. They're not really part of the dream that we dream. And then we get married. At some point, you can start seeing the picture in reverse. The mountains can feel like they're really just descents into valleys, and then slow, strenuous climbs back out of them, only to be able to enjoy the peaks just for a moment, but knowing you can't really stay there for very long. Which one is it, marriage? Peaks or valleys? Both, and neither. If marriage isn't a helpful example, careers can be the same way, can't they? When we study, we get accepted, we get hired, we have dreams, what a career will look like, the responsibility and the influence, the paycheck, the contribution we'll make to the world in our dreams. But on the way towards the dream, it's harder in ways we never dreamed. In ways that seem like sometimes we're living the exact opposite of the dream that we dreamed. So important to see that in Joseph's story, because this is the moment for a whole lot of us when we tend to give up. This is where we tend to tap out or opt out or burn out or quiet, quit, and rust out. Not just of the career or the marriage, but even more ultimately the hope that our lives can have any meaning at all. That the dream can ever come true from here. We'll see it in Joseph's story all along the way, but it's why it's so important to have a different compass setting than just the ending of your story. We'll miss who the dream giver is making us all along the way. Different, harder, and longer. Realize it's 22 years between the dreams Joseph dreams and the moment he even begins putting the pieces together. It's easy to skip over that when you're just pressing through the story. Joseph sat alone in prison, forgotten, even by the people that he'd helped for 2 whole years. I mean, I tend to start feeling sorry for myself when my prayers aren't answered in a couple of days. A couple of months, I'm pretty confident God's doing the Randy Jackson. Like, it's a no from me, dog. You see it in Joseph's story. Maybe it's true in yours. Sometimes it's better for our dreams to be deferred than immediately realized. It's easy to see in Joseph's story when we buzz through it in 10 minutes. Can you imagine Joseph, who started the story, as the prime minister of Egypt? Of course not. It would have destroyed him. It would have destroyed his family. He couldn't possibly see it at the time, but he wasn't ready for that then. He couldn't possibly see it at the time. He was being formed and shaped and tempered and developed and forged over time as someone who was prepared to live in his dreams.